The rig's not up for fracking. Right.
Yeah, I always wondered that myself.
Yeah, no. What'll happen is we'll drill. Let's say it's going to have 4 wells. We'll drill all 4, and the rig goes away. It goes to the next operation. Then we bring in the completions crew, and they do the completion of the well. Then they leave, and then the production team goes in, and then they take the gas from it being completed, and then put it into pipeline. So there's spaces along the way, but that's normally, you think about it from a geology standpoint is number 1. Where is it? I think I know it's here. So then I'll do seismic, which is taking an x-ray of the earth to understand how it lays.
Right.
Seismic and geology will say you want to put your rig site in this location.
And is every well producing? I mean, is it, or is it irregular? Is it hard to
there's
tell?
definitely
Hard to tell which one's going to end up producing well and which one isn't.
Yes, to answer your question directly, yes, each well is different. Each well will produce differently. The only good news is, in Susquehanna County, you don't see anything that's considered below average. Just because.
Because they're all producing well.
Yes, no pun intended.
Oh, that's another one. Yeah, that's Barbara, yeah.
On technical data. But the point would be more so to find out what your issues are so I can get back in touch with you, hence the email address.
Is there somebody that we could speak to about technical things that you can't answer?
Not tonight, there isn't, but I can, yes.
Is it people here?
Yes, there would be people here, or what I would recommend is if your day allows you on July 23rd to join us at the Cabot picnic at Hartford Fairgrounds.
But if I had a question, I could just drive down and see if there's somebody here to talk to.
You could also go straight to our website, and we have an Ask Cabot button, and those also are a way that you can just submit a question electronically. Normally, I would just not encourage you to come here because your likelihood of seeing somebody isn't all that great. So that's the challenge. You know, the Ask Cabot ones, I can guarantee you'll get an answer. But to come here, you know, we've got gentlemen and ladies that work out of this office. Yes. Yes. So you'll just take the risk that the right guy will be here.
Now, is there any flaring going on right now that you know of?
I imagine there is. I don't know.
You don't know where there is anything near Russo? We're going to the Russo site and to the Smith site. Anything near Russo? Because there was flaring there.
There was flaring there, but I was up there today. I didn't see any.
You didn't see any? You didn't hear anything or see anything?
No.
Okay.
Anywhere else? Are we going to a compressor station?
No.
That's what another.
I would like to get us in one. The compressor station here off of 29, and it's called Lathrop Station. It's owned by Williams. We sold it to Williams last December. So Helen Humphreys is their person. I've been talking with Helen. She said she'd be glad to organize something with Vera to get in.
Yeah, I've met Helen, so we can talk with Helen.
It is interesting to see. It's quite interesting because, again, you walk up to it and it's maybe this and a half bigger, and that's what it looks like. You know, yes, it is. And inside are the compressors that are taking the gas, collecting it, and then putting it under pressure to inject it into the interstate system. So when we drive down that way, more than likely we'll cross over the Tennessee pipeline, which is an existing, I think it's a 20-inch line. They're building a partner to it right alongside of it, that'll be a 24-inch line.
And the compressor station's close to 29 down there?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, you can't see it. You can't see it really from the road. It's got a long access road.
Right. You're best to see it almost at night because it's lit.
Yeah. Then you get a better idea. Maybe through the trees, you might get a peek from the road.
How close together do they have to put them?
That's a good question, but I don't know the answer to. And normally, you're going to build a compressor station depending on the amount of gas you're seeing come out. You can have in, say, West Virginia, where the wells don't produce as strong, you'll need to have more compression to pull that gas and inject it into the interstate system.
And I've heard it also depends on the configuration of the line.
The nature in which it's getting there,
right.
Yes, sir.
But it's hard to, I mean, is it...
There's not a rule of thumb that I could say for every 50 wells you'll need a compressor station. It's not that simple. Right. So, and then there's also size and scope. We have a station.
Is the countryside here going to be dotted with them, or? It's just hard to get a feel for how many they're going to be in terms of.
There will be, again, along the route of the pipeline,
Oh,
you'll see them.
It's just on the pipeline
Right.
route.
But if the gas is coming out under higher pressure, then
Which it is here.
less
And there-
compressor stations required.
But a compressor station is also there long term. So normally, their gas that comes out at a higher pressure is an initial flow.
Yeah, I mean, you'll probably end up explaining some of this.
But this is better. So I'd rather. I mean, again.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
good.
Right.
Yeah, this is good. It's like impromptu.
I have lots of questions.
I can give you an idea a little bit. I went to Liberty Township meeting, which is north of here, and I sat there in the meetings for the compressor stations. Williams is planning 2 compressor stations 4 miles apart. So even though they say, they don't,
4 miles apart.
only 4 miles apart for 2 of them, and they are planning more. And this is the initial proposal.
Why were they 4 miles apart? Did she
Well,
say?
no, she didn't say, but I thought that was kind of close. So that to me gave me an idea that we might have a good. Barbara was there for one of the meetings.
I thought that they were going to be the manager.
Wow, that surprises me.
No, I don't think so. I haven't heard that.
Sure.
What is the closest the compressor stations are apt to be?
I'll find out.
That might give us a maximum
Right.
idea.
And since they all make noise, at night you'll be able to, when things are quiet, there'll be this
Hum.
ambient hum.
Right.
throughout
That is one of the
Northeastern
concerns,
Pennsylvania.
I
Have
think.
to make noise.
I think
if
that's
they're
the
built.
concern of citizens is,
Well, I would
how
agree.
much
Right.
background noise there is
Right.
and how much evening noise there is.
And
particularly.
lights.
And
You've
lights.
got light pollution, you got noise pollution, you've got VOC pollution
Right.
coming from them. But what I'm hearing is that your responsibility, I mean, these are owned by another company, Williams.
Yeah.
So Cabot's not involved with it once it comes out of the ground and goes into the pipeline.
Correct. But
But-
regardless, we can't operate without them, and vice versa.
Right.
So I
But-
could tell you directly that we're not engaged, but at the same point, we need them here. We would encourage them to be
But
here.
you have been in business of operating.
We built
stations.
the Lathrop station, we built Till Station, and
So-
probably about 75 miles of pipeline to gather them all together.
Let's talk about what could be the best. How quiet can you make it? Supposing that building was a compressor station. Could you stand out here and not hear it?
Yes,
If you did the very best you could do.
I could stand at Lathrop Station this far away, and I don't think you hear it.
All right, then.
I mean, I think
there's
the
a good
diff-
chance.
I've been that far from Lathrop Station. I've been there several times, so I've been that far, and I do hear
How
it.
loud is it?
Now, wait,
I do hear it. I do hear
Are
it.
you talking
I mean, my
about-
ears are still working. I'm 60 years old, but they're still
Are you
working.
talking about the biggest compressor station? I mean, you might. have
Lathrop's a pretty big compressor station.
Oh, it's large. Yeah, it's large.
Compressor station and start with so many engines and then decide to add on more because you have more gas coming in. So I still ask the same question then, how quiet could the biggest compressor station be? Could you have it there with all the equipment that you might maximally need and be able to stand here and not hear it?
I think the answer is yes. Right. Now again, because I would tell you, when I stand that close to Lathrop, I don't hear a loud noise. Now,
Well,
again, there may be-
loud noise.
Well, I don't.
How about
I
any
don't even
noise?
hear a hum.
You don't even hear a hum? Oh, I hear hums.
Now the difference is, I think
But the Lathrop Street station could be smaller than what I'm asking you.
it could be smaller. Yes, it's inefficient if it's smaller.
Now, what about the Button
want
Road
more
compressor station? I like that one because that one's
efficient
really loud.
I'm asking from a citizen's point of view, a company point of view.
Oh, understood.
I'd like to know how quiet they can be made.
Right. I think when you tour Lathrop, you'll get a real good sense of how quiet Lathrop Station is.
So what I'm hearing is
But
that they
there's
can.
still a question. It might be noisier if you add on more engines because you need more for more gas coming in. So,
I'm with you. But Lathrop is now built to its maximum. So I don't think.
well, maybe Lathrop is built to its maximum, but you might still have a compressor station that's bigger than Lathrop, right?
It's possible, yeah. Okay. So we're going to go to an 8 compressor station.
What is Lathrop? 6.
How big could a compressor station be then?
How many compressors can go in
Yeah.
a compressor station? I don't know that answer, but I'll find out.
I want to know the maximum bad
Well, and it also sounds like what you're telling me is they can be made very quiet. So if there are compressor stations that are loud, then they could have done better.
It's possible.
And
So
that's
8 engines is maximum?
I don't know what a maximum
what
is.
needs to
I
be
don't
focused
say
on
age,
is
I don't know.
requiring them to build them as
Well, the other problem you have is you have the exhausts, the emission considerations of compressor stations. I mean, we have FLIR cameras, and we are seeing all kinds of exhausts and VOCs. It's not just heat. What are we doing about that? Can they make it so there's no benzene going out there, there's no BTEXs, there's no VOCs? What are we going to do about that?
These are all good questions for
that's a
asking,
concern.
because I don't think you're seeing what your FLIR camera is telling you. I think you need to do a canister on there, and that would probably be the best way for you to understand what's coming out there.
So can we have access to it? We have to ask Williams to put a
You
canister?
have to ask Williams to do that.
Yeah,
but
because
yes.
we can get canisters. We can
Right.
put canisters out there and see what's coming out.
I mean, I know that those gases can be capped, and some of them can, when they...
Some kind of emission
shut it
controls.
down, and then...
I think there already are emission controls.
Well-
That's the piece.
How about, another question I have is getting it from the well to the pipeline. Is there pumps in that process?
From the well
To the pipeline? Is there, in other words, is there something compressing it right at the well site? Or is it all just natural pressure?
Right.
No noise whatsoever then?
No, there's noise at the
I
sites.
guess we'll
You
see.
will have noise
You'll come.
at a wellhead site. When the gas is coming out of the ground, it's very cold. So what you want to do is you want to make sure the gas doesn't freeze off in the wintertime.
And
So
we're
you
going,
bathe it. Yes.
we're going to go to one
We'll
that's
go.
producing now
Yes.
today.
Yeah, so
I
you'll
think
see.
we're probably ready at this point.
Yeah, how's the time? What do you got? 5:21. Okay, this is all. But let's do this.
My friend Brendan's almost here. He was just
After seismic's done, you will locate where you want to put your drill site. So once you locate your drill site, you then do what's called pad site development, which means cut this road in, level this site off. You can see all the topsoil is held over in the furrow on your far side. So that's where the topsoil's at. So again, what you're looking at is normally about a 400 by 400 foot pad that'll hold the pad site. So that's what you have here. Once pad site development is laid out, then you will do what's called a top hole. And what a top hole is your earlier spots of where you're going to drill those wells. That's a 20-inch hole down about 100 feet. And what that does is that stops the rock from falling in amongst itself. So you do a top hole, we auger that down. We used to drill it, we now auger it. It's easier to auger because there's such a prevalence of natural gas at the surface in Susquehanna County. By augering it, you're able to liberate it versus keeping it under pressure. So that's one of the...
Maybe we'll raise our hands if we have questions or something. Could it help if we raise our hands to have questions
Be stuck in the ground.
while you're talking?
Okay, if I'm taking a pipe and I'm pounding it through, there's no way for that gas to escape that's already at the surface.
So it's a bigger hole.
Correct.
And that's just 100 feet.
Correct. At 20 inches round. And then each one will then go down each the center of that.
That's a big auger.
That is a big auger.
So then
It
the
is a big-
biogenic gas escapes into the atmosphere while you're doing this. Right.
Yes. It's naturally
Instead of
escaping
finding
right
some
now.
other place to release its pressure.
Right. It's naturally escaping right now. Exactly.
But if you haven't drilled it or augered it before, and there's that gas there, it's not getting into the water. So,
How do we know that?
well, if nobody has methane in their water around this site, this
Right.
pad site,
93% of the wells that we test in Susquehanna County have methane in them already, pre-existing to drilling,
a biogenic methane,
and thermogenic.
thermogenic.
Yes, ma'am. So and the difference
that-
between biogenic and thermogenic is oftentimes it's thought that biogenic gas you're going to find more so at the surface, and thermogenic gas is often referred to as production gas or the target that you're going for. The difference you have in Susquehanna County is because of the loose geology that created and formed the endless mountains, you will have a preponderance of natural gas at the surface. And it's both thermogenic and biogenic. Unlike Western Pennsylvania, where you would not find thermogenic gas at the surface, here in Susquehanna County, you find thermogenic gas at the surface.
Methane.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
But people who have so much of it that it bubbles and flames, that after drilling would mean that the augering or the drilling has disturbed it more so that more comes out.
Or it's already been there prior. That's why we do pre-drill testing.
Yeah, but if it's been there prior, but only a little bit is in the water,
Well, we're
and more gets in the water.
93% of the wells have it in it already.
Yeah, but it's not.
It's very
not-
low, very low levels.
Well, what's the level? What are the
Yeah,
figures?
what is the level that's very, very low?
Yeah, what are the
What
levels
ours
you're
topped
getting?
out at
We're getting
zero
I
something.
forget what it is.
Yeah.
there.
Do you remember? Do you know what you're testing at, George? What are you getting with
We're getting,
pre-test,
we're getting
pre-drill?
93%.
I know, but 93%.
Right.
But I'm talking about the amount. What is the amount
It
of
runs the
methane
gamut from
Well, from what to-
unsafe to safe to traces.
to traces of it?
Yeah.
And then after drilling, do you take any testing after drilling
We
or during?
provide the test results to the property owner to let them know what was there.
And then do you see increases
We
after
have
drilling?
not,
So you're saying it stays the same?
for the most part. And what's interesting is in 1998, there was a gentleman, Mr. Moore, who came and did a study on the prevalence of methane in the groundwater in Susquehanna County. And he charted it over an 18-month period. And you will see natural highs and lows to the methane that he located here. If you take the data that we have today, this was done in '84. If you look at today's data, 2010, the ebb and flow is exactly the same, which would lead us to believe with 1,000 wells tested, you're seeing exactly what you saw in '84 today.
So then why is the DEP making you responsible and saying that you are bad casing, poor casing, releasing excess methane so that now it's becoming dangerous? We have to eliminate the methane through stacks
Now,
at the homes.
have been there already. The stacking is the way that the department would have told you in 1940 to vent your well.
So why are they blaming you and saying that you're
a very
improperly
good question.
constructing the
It's
wells
not
and they're
been-
almost half of your wells in Dimick have poor casing?
Right. And that's
Why are they-
we're working with DEP.
And you're
to
still
address
banned.
that.
You're still banned from 9 square miles from
3
drilling.
square
The
miles.
augering you're doing, the 20-inch,
Yes, sir.
100, that's different than you were doing before.
Prior,
or
right?
something?
You would do normal drilling before.
This is a sort of a new thing
Correct.
to help release some of that, so
Right.
that you're
know
not
what you're
having
doing,
any
auger
future
through
problems.
it, see what you've got. So now you put a 20-inch casing down, then you put like a 12-inch casing through that one. That one's going to go 500 feet. Then you've got one going at 1,500 feet. So you've got 3 strands before you even go down.
Keep getting narrower and
Absolutely.
narrower as
Yes,
it
and
goes
they go through each one. So you pump cement down and outside the casing. So it's 20-inch casing steel, cement, steel, cement, steel, 5,000 feet below the aquifer. Well, I shouldn't say below the
Would you do
aquifer.
that slowly?
5,000.
Is that 2 layers of cement you're saying then?
That would be 4 layers of cement.
You're saying 4?
20-inch casing, 20-inch
casing
cement,
down to,
100 feet.
and then
Another pipe, 12 inches, give or take, 12 and 3/4.
to
500 feet. A third casing to 5,000 feet.
and that's how big,
That one's probably 9
9
and 3/4, yeah.
and that goes all the way down to the turn.
No, that one goes down to 5,000. Then you put a fourth one through, down towards the kickoff point, and then out lateral.
Is that also 9 inches?
No, it's thinner. It's
So how many of those casings do you cement?
all the casings are cement.
What's
To the turn, not the horizontal.
Actually, the horizontal cemented also.
So
That's
you're
why
cementing from the ground all the way to the end
there
of the
is a
horizontal?
freehole section in the center. There's an area that's called freehole that you're drilling through below the 5,000. Then you lay casing in at the turn.
Is that where the turn is? Or before
It's
the turn?
between the turn and around 5,000 feet.
what's the diameter of that final?
That's the freehold?
I'll find that out. It's probably
pretty small.
production casing is about 4 inches, I think. Yeah.
That's the horizontal.
You were saying that study before in 1984, I think you said, with the measurement of
Right.
and it's the same as it is now. So you're saying that the system has been in stasis, that there hasn't been change over time with the levels of this, with the methane in here? That's what you're saying, right?
Right.
How has it remained in stasis? Do you know? Is there an explanation how this hasn't been affected? I mean, if it's reaching into the groundwater anyway, how is it that the levels of the methane are remaining constant? Do I understand correctly?
Yeah, you would understand it correctly that that the level of naturally occurring methane has pretty much stayed constant since '84.
But it has been bleaching into the groundwater. I mean, that's what you said before, right? You measure the water on the well,
correct?
And you find traces of the methane in the water, and so if it's in the water, I assume goes into natural rivers and leaves the area. I don't understand how it remains stable. I mean, how can the levels not change over time?
Because there's that much natural gas here to start with.
There's that much natural gas. Right. Okay, so that's what it is. So, all right, well, maybe
you're talking about a between the Devonian, the Upper Devonian. Yeah. There's a lot of gas underneath our feet.
So you're not able to measure all of them. You don't have a precise idea of how much is here.
In the sense of,
I mean, you don't know exactly underground here. You don't know. Is it gallon? You take it out.
MCF.
MCF. Okay. You don't know exactly how much is here to the last MCF, right? Because if it is bleaching out, it can't remain constant. I mean, there has to be some kind of loss. And if it's moving out into the groundwater through rivers and leaving the area through the groundwater, then it can't remain stable. I don't see how that can remain in stasis like that.
His background is political science, by the way. Just to let you know.
I think what she's trying to imply is I'm not a technical person. However, I think what I'm going to also let you know is there's enough naturally occurring methane in the surface, and that's why it's able to stay present and stay stable. Okay. Because we're not talking about since '84 either. I would take you back probably 200 years, if not longer, that this gas has been here. Yeah. So I think you're getting at some point it's going to run out.
Well, I think what you're talking about is the biogenic gas. And if
I'm actually not. I'm talking about thermogenic gas. Yes, that's what I mentioned. Thermogenic gas is at the surface here.
Before drilling.
Before drilling.
Oh, so these studies that you're talking about are just surface. They're not actually talking about.
They're not talking about the Marcellus.
They're not talking about 1,500 feet. 1,500 feet down.
Really?
No.
What, within the first 100 feet?
Right. They would be probably at the surface.
Well, we can't hear you because of the trucks going by.
There's so many trucks, by the way, and it's one after another. Just notice the trucks here. This is a site that's basically finished, but we got lots of trucks. How many months were they here drilling, by the way?
It would take us 25 days to drill one well.
And there were four wells at least?
4 wells, it'd be 100 days. If it was 3 wells, 75.
And now we still have to do fracking.
You still have to
clean up and all this and reclaiming.
And it'll be gone in no time whatsoever.
So the rig...
And you'll have gas producing here 30 to 40 years.
The rig was,
temporary inconvenience for a long-term gain.
The rig was here about 100 days.
Only if you're into fossil fuels.
Right.
Who isn't?
And only if you don't. only if you don't live here. If you don't live here, it's no problem at all.
You have to refract to make.
We don't.
Well, you're not going to get gas for 30 years. It's
and you would say that why?
Yeah.
Because you have a lot of pressure, and then it goes down in a few years.
We're not seeing that at all. We have wells.
Been here that long yet.
We have wells in West Virginia, though, and we have wells elsewhere that you don't see that. Our history is not that whatsoever. We don't have to refract the well.
I just wanted to go back to the statement about everybody's had methane, biogenic, and thermogenic.
And thermogenic, yes.
But there are homes where people have not had methane of any kind. It's been a problem until drilling. And then they have so much methane that they control the homes.
Okay.
So what you're saying is not always true. I'm trying to say that the methane, so people are talking about now, is normal. Has been, but drilling has caused other situations which happens? Is that
Because I would argue that there has been an increase in methane at the surface due to drilling.
Or in the aquifer, let's say. How about in the aquifer? You would argue
but
that.
previously you didn't, when you were just talking about this, you were saying
He argues everything that the DEP says. DEP has stated that there is increases in the methane, tremendous increases in the aquifer.
We've had this conversation before, Vera, and I know you like to get me on camera, but if you look at the agreement that we signed in December 15th, when we said we disagree with that finding, the DEP signed off. So you're always good at pointing out what DEP has said, and I'm doing my job of pointing out what I said.
Well, that's why
and
I have to have both sides, you know, so there's some balance here.
Both sides have agreed on that.
Well, I haven't seen that. They said
Look
that
at the agreement.
Well, I looked at the agreement. You signed off, and you signed as far as Cabot that you agree, that you didn't say you disagreed.
We most certainly did.
Well, then I'd like to see that. Maybe you can send me a copy.
It's on our website.
It's on your website? Okay, I'll look for it.
December 15th.
All right, that you disagreed with the findings.
Absolutely, we disagreed with the findings.
I understand this, so you disagree. I'm just trying to reiterate that you disagree with whatever, a lot of things that DEP comes up with.
Absolutely.
But DEP has their position, and they have their, their scientists and their people that work these things out, and you have yours, and there's major polarity here.
Right.
You're saying no, they say yes.
Is there a third party that has done studies on this material?
That's what we're looking for. Yeah, we got universities, hopefully, that can come in and do third-party studies.
And that's why we'll go back to the third-party studies that have already been done, like Mr. Moore's in '84.
Yeah,
but we'd like to have recent studies. Right, yeah, we'd like to have...
The best piece about it, it's over 20 years old, and it shows the same thing.
In the academic fields,
academically,
is more reliable.
it's more reliable, like 2010, 2011.
I know,
we're getting sidetracked.
There's a casing, so hopefully you're preventing any methane migration. And by augering, you're allowing the gas to escape up through the auger. I assume that's the idea, because the auger's not like a straight drill, it's spiraled, so you can allow the gas to get out and around it. Okay. So
we're not seeing
what has
any increase then.
Okay, so that was my question.
They just took it down that quick. The one went down across the
What are you finding sites where you're drilling and nearby water situations? People who have drinking water that may have,
but it's hard to get to.
You know, low levels of methane, background methane, but has that changed as a result?
Yes, we're not seeing any increase in methane in those water
since you've adopted this method, people aren't getting polluted wells?
Since we've adopted this method, you're not seeing any increase in methane in the aquifer or their water wells.
Well, if you didn't increase if you were not responsible for the problem from the beginning with DIMIC, why even institute these new methods?
That's technology.
Why even bother? Since you say we have this methane, you didn't cause it, so keep doing it like you've been doing it.
But at the same point, when technology advances, you move with it. So the evolution of our industry is such that's why we don't have any reservoir pits here any longer either. So therefore, it made better sense to move with the advancements in technology.
Since methane is cleaner than coal when it's burned, but it's bad raw gas.
Those surface pits.
That's what he's saying. There aren't any reservoir pits in
Capture this methane that is coming out of your
he said
auger.
water issues have been going on for years. We could do that back.
Shouldn't you catch the methane that's escaping because you're augering down, making a hole for it to come out?
But the gas that escapes when we auger through is what I would call a burst of gas. There's no long-term nature to produce that gas.
Well, how long does it come out then?
It's just there and gone.
How long?
It's not for maybe a 12-hour period, if that.
And just released into the atmosphere then.
Right, like it normally is doing.
George, was this a well site down here?
Yeah, that's
and
a Smith hole.
Was that a 400-foot pad there?
That was not probably. That was probably maybe a little less than 400 by 400.
I always wonder, why do the pads have to be so big? I mean,
normally it's mainly for all the equipment that you put on it. You want to have the ability to turn around, to respond to any emergency. You don't want to make them so tight that they operate for all the time. But what if you have an issue?
Now, once the well is in that type of situation, that's in production.
It's in production, exactly.
And no trucks going in and out and all that kind of stuff.
It gets bathed. So if you look to the right, you'll see one black and one looks brown Those are vent stacks because those two sort of tan boxes are the heaters. Once again, the gas is coming out very cold, freeze off. It's windshield wiper fluid.
So what doesn't freeze?
The actual gas coming out of the ground and the water.
But you have the heaters. So
Correct. But you got to get it from there to the heaters, and you got to get the water back to the brine tank. So you could have the water freeze off.
So from here, then the gas is piped somewhere.
Yes.
And which way does this one come?
That's a good question.
But
this one will be this well and that well would be gathered together, and I just don't see where the pipeline is. Here, do you know where the pipeline is?
Well, I don't know.
It's collected.
Would it be the Tennessee pipeline over here?
No, not at all.
No?
This would be a gathering system. This well here would be tied into that one, and you'll move all the gas collectively to our compressor station.
To the one up there,
This
Lathrop.
one's already hooked to a
A gathering system.
okay.
Why are they so close to each other, these paths?
Because this is, again, when you're doing your drilling, you're able to reach out, and then you can have this one right here. It's all underneath us.
But you can go thousands and thousands of feet from that path, so why can't
I was wondering the same thing. It seems close.
And you can do the outreach from each of them to your 1,000 feet. So again,
Well, in
there's
just one
several up
direction,
this
though.
way.
There's
That
several,
Go in
yeah.
both directions. It runs northwest by southeast because the shell runs that way. So normally we drill it that way. And you would have one, right, depending on how
So you
many.
can have one hole in two directions?
No, ma'am, you would have
There's
two
holes.
wells at the surface, one going one way, one going the other way.
Can we go to a finished site at this point because it's a little quieter maybe? Oh, we've seen this one, right? It'll be
Do
quieter
we get to
than
go
this, a little
and see
quieter.
this? Or
No,
any
not
closer?
this.
We don't get to go any closer.
No, unless you're with me, I guess.
Two wells, yes, two wells at the surface, right,
Well-
and then they would go out laterally, horizontal.
In a, what'd you say, north, what direction? Northeast, southwest direction? So with this one being so close,
So then you have
Interesting.
another pad here, how do you get the gas out from in between?
No, because the other pad that's over here, this one's going to come out, if we're staying with this is that line, and this has a 200-foot radius,
Okay.
it's going to stop here. So your next unit would go here, and then your one would go here, and it would then take the gas that's there. At no point do you want these two pad sites talking to one another.
So you get that?
I could do 4 if you wanted me to. So I think if I was understanding your question though, if this is the neighboring one, it could go out and go right down there. So again, if I'm following,
you have the ability to go far enough underground that you don't have to pop them right
correct,
next to each other.
right, and you don't really have a gap where you're not producing.
You're not draining it. So,
Correct.
So you're not going to do in Susquehanna County what has happened out west with every 40 acres they're filling in.
Correct. No, you're not going to do that. What you would do with anything, if your production allowed and you didn't see it, let's just again, I don't know the distances, but if this is 1,000 feet apart, you could put a frac down the center and keep that, and then you're looking at that area here.
So then you have to have another pad with the,
Correct.
with the vertical one.
Correct. So you would then have infill, and you would come off of this pad site though.
What will prevent this
What
from
would?
having to happen? What will prevent having to fill in with more pads to get that little space?
You would use the same pad. You won't have a new pad. You'll use the same pad, and you'll frac, and you'll go out.
To go out farther.
Right. Right. You don't have a new pad.
So we need to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Right, you want to limit the amount of pads, right. Our maximums are 6. See, and when I do this, I'm just...
That's an
it
aerial.
really,
right?
yeah, but it really does go like that. I mean,
But this is looking down
yes,
on it, so
absolutely.
this is horizontal.
Right.
So
Correct.
when people draw this, it looks like there's one vertical and 6 horizontals. but
And that's not the
true.
case,
There's 6 verticals.
Correct, right. And then the question I think was earlier was, can you go down one hole and go both ways? And the answer is no.
Yeah, I think I'd read somewhere that, and I assume it's because of the pressure, that they need a new drill hole for every direction.
Right.
Just to continue discussing the process here, this has been drilled, but it hasn't been fracked yet.
Absolutely not.
And
this has been drilled, so all this will leave. It'll be a clean site for like 2 hours.
And then the water trucks come in, and you get all
Correct.
ready to frack.
Correct.
And that's when the blue boxes and all that
Yes.
are
Snaker
stored
truck.
water. gets all pumped into the well for fracking, and so.
Yes, sir.
What's the purpose of the burn-off? Is that necessary at every well?
When you go from a single pad site to a 6-well site, and you've got 6 wells completed, it then becomes necessary, because what you're doing is, under this one, you okay with me taking this again? Sure. You'll be bringing gas up from all of these.
Right.
So now, when you're bringing the gas up to surface, let me answer that in a moment, because I'll give you one more piece. This is often referred to as the heel, and this is the toe. Now you ask a question about refracking. I don't see the need where we're gonna have to refrac this horizontal at all, okay? However, there is a term where you will have the toe, and I will, in stages, I will frac this. I'll have a stage here, 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 here. Our laterals run out around 5,000 feet, and they normally have around at least 10 stages of fracking. It depends on how far out, how far out. Yeah.
So there's 10 separate.
On an average. Mm-hmm. And this would be 5,000 feet on an average. So what happens is you frac this farthest one first, and you work your way backwards. What happens is once I frac this one, I put a plug here. So this gas is ready to come to surface, but I've actually kept it at bay. Mm-hmm. I then frac this one, put a plug, put a plug, put a plug, put a plug, and now I will then drill through all these plugs, and the water and the gas will then come to surface.
Or you'd need a rig back here to do that again?
You can do that. You don't use a rig as you do a drill bit you're able to actually have on surface. You don't need a full rig to do that. So you then go back down the hole. The drilling rig has to crack through the earth.
Plugs.
This one just has to go through the plugs. There's already a channel to get it down. So it goes through the plugs. Now you're getting gas and water back to surface. So in the beginning, you're going to get 98% water and 2% gas. And then over the time, you're going to get 98% gas and 2% water. What you're doing when you're flaring is that water's coming back to surface. You're separating the water flow back from the gas. That gas at that point is channeled to a flare and burned off. Because you're doing multiple wells at one time, you would have multiple sources for methane coming to the surface. So from a safety standpoint, we flare it, we run it off, and we flare it, if you would. So you don't have a collection of natural gas where you're working.
So you're flaring your lower percentages off until you get your water out.
Get your water out, and now you've in essence wrestled the water out. You're now at a better rate for natural gas, and now you go to production. So you take that gas and you put it into a pipeline.
But you can't capture that gas. There's a lot of gas that comes out.
There is a lot of gas that comes out from a flare. But we're working on coming up with technology that will allow us to capture that.
Yeah,
but until you have that occur,
a lot of people have said it's a waste.
Right. Right.
It's a
And
waste
so you're
for
looking to come up with ways
to. It's a waste for the landowner.
Good point. So then you're looking for ways to ensure that you can get safety, but at the same point capture that gas. But right today, what we're doing is we're flaring it off.
How long does it take to separate the majority of the flowback water from the gas?
That's probably a 24-hour period, and that will also depend on how many wells. If you're doing one well, you could probably do it in a couple hours because you're not going to have a lot of gas coming to surface because you're one well hole. But if you're doing 6 wells, you're going to take that and go up. If it's 3 hours, and you've now got 18 hours.
But one well could separate most of the flowback from the gas in what?
Say 3 hours. One well. One well. But I've got multiple.
Yeah, the flaring out here is a week.
I don't think we've gone a week.
Oh, how long? What's the longest have you gone?
You may have several in a general area. I think the most we've ever gone is 3 days.
No, I'll have to document it for you.
Cool.
Yeah,
Right.
the same site, more than 3 days, and the noise is 24/7.
Right, it's like off the whole time.
Right, and it sounds like a jet plane going off on the tarmac. It's really loud. I mean, I can't even speak.
Yeah, I've heard it.
Now,
It's just completed. That's why these tanks are still here. Also, they're capturing flowback. and those D-high units are knocking off water, taking it back and disposing of it or storing it in the 2 trucks back. That will not stay long term. This is a well that has just recently been completed.
This is the Russo well, by the way.
The heaters
Springville.
are... Yeah, exactly.
Now we can look at the
The heaters are the
site
square
here.
boxes, so you can see through it. Yeah. Each one will have, yeah, you'll see 5, right, you'll see 5 emission stacks coming off of them. You should see 5 solar panels, because these wells are always they're always talking to our headquarters in Charleston, West Virginia, where we have gas supply. So 24/7 these wells are being reviewed by somebody. Now this gentleman that's here today,
So what are the solar panels for?
they're providing energy, or excuse me, the power to send all the transmission and the data back to Charleston. So, because they're not big enough for us. And then our sites will be bigger.
You can put bigger panels on there.
Right.
Now,
That's
what's coming out of those stacks, George? I mean, this.
I would have.
What's your guess?
You're seeing what would normally come off a gas furnace. So that's the kind of emissions you're coming off of a heater from the gas. So the question was, why are we heating the gas in the summertime?
Right, there's an odor to you.
The question was, why are you heating the gas in the summertime?
This is 300 feet from some homes, constant.
Right now, it will freeze out. Even though it's at surface,
I'm sorry,
it's 80 degrees. The question was, why are we heating the gas now? Because this gas is coming up at such great pressure. This was just recently completed. It will freeze off if you just let it come up by itself. It'll come up so fast, it will freeze off on the way up.
And is that the noise we're hearing of the heaters?
That's the
burning?
noise of the heaters that are running.
And eventually, as the pressure decreases,
That you don't need to run the heaters. Now you will in the winter time,
Right.
so you'll hear that also. But those D-high units, the D-high units I pointed out are the cylinders that are those green cylinders are called dehydration. They're taking water out of the gas. They are here temporarily to take and separate water into both of these Baker trucks. This water will then be transported out of here, recycled, and then we will reuse it. The water that comes back that goes into the brine tanks, we will capture, take it off here also. They have a gauge inside. They tell us when they're full. We have a truck that comes, takes that water off, and also then gets recycled, and then we reuse it.
How does this equipment know what water to put in the wrong tank?
Right today, the question had to do with how do you know what water from one to the other? Long term, we're going to take off the dehydration units. So right today, that would be phase 1. The gas would be going through the dehydration units immediately as it's coming up right now. Then it goes from the dehy into the brine tanks if there's water left over. What we know, because of this being just recently completed, your mixture of water is going to be higher right now. In brine or flowback, they're the same word. Brine and flowback are the same thing. Go ahead.
Well, it's confusing.
It is confusing because
the flowback is coming out with the gas.
Correct.
It's going first to the
Dehydration, right?
And then either it can go that way to the flowback tank or it can go this way to the brine tank. How does the machinery know which way to send it?
Okay, and what I'm saying is the gas is coming up, it's taking steps. It's coming out of the wellhead over there, okay? Its first step is to the dehy. The dehy strips it of the water it can get off of it. It's one phase. It then goes to the next
and
heater.
that water goes where?
To those 2 tanks right there. And that is a temporary situation because these wells were just completed.
These tanks
So
right
that
here.
will not be here long term at all.
Going to the brine tank.
It says flowback.
No.
Flowback.
Again, I'm back to steps. So I'm gonna wring out the gas first, what I can get out with my hand. That's what, if you would, the dehys are doing now. It then goes into metering, gets warmed. If there's additional water in the next step, it goes into the brine tanks. So it's a phasing of where you are in the process. So the gas doesn't. It's going to the dryer, absolutely. So the water never has a choice of, do I go this way or do I go this way?
So the flowback goes from the wellhead to the dehydrator.
Correct.
And then to the heater.
Yep.
And then,
To brine.
so it's not going to that tank.
No, I'm sorry. I'm missing you along the way. Because the gas is coming out of the well. And it's carrying water with it. It goes into the dehydration unit. That water gets wrung out. It goes to the flowback tanks here. Those ones on that side.
Okay.
And there's still water where?
Where's the gas go then?
The gas goes into the bathe, into the heaters. Okay. And now there's going to be additional water stripped off in the dryer, and it goes to the brine tank.
Oh, the gas goes into the heater?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I see.
Yes, ma'am.
And it still has some water in it?
Correct.
I see.
So you're going to get the first phase of water is going to be hit by the dehyes, separated off. Within, and I don't know the time frame, but if you would work with me, say within a week's time, you're now producing gas out of there that doesn't have a preponderance of water. You can take away those dehydration units, then you'll run it straight through the heater, and whatever water's left over will go to the brine tanks. But we now know, because this well was just recently completed, you're going to bring more water than you normally would long term. So in the very beginning, when this well was completed, you're talking about 90% of what was coming up was water and 10% was gas. So what we're doing then is we're taking all that gas through channeling, and it's going straight to Baker trucks like this, and then we recycle that water.
And where is it taken? I know this one.
Right, it's actually, we passed it on our way here. I showed it to Vera.
Yeah, the treatment center on 29.
Right. And Hibbert, you said?
At the Hibbert well site, near the Hibbert well site, but we stopped for a little bit, and there was a house. I was pointing to him. That's it. Behind that is a treatment plant. It's like
where there was a spill?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the one, yeah. Hibbert and Allen is the family, I think, in the front. Hibbert in the back.
That's where the water's being processed.
Right. That's
now,
a mobile unit, so we're able to
what
move
happens with, I mean, it's a closed loop system, so is there any byproduct of it? Is there anything that has to be hauled away?
Yeah. What will happen is, when you're bringing back the water, you will bring back particles of dirt from in the hole, in the shell itself. So what the first phase at the location is a centrifuge. So you'll spin the water and you'll throw out solids.
And where is that
then goes to a landfill. That is occurring right off of 29.
Oh,
like a sludge,
Right.
like a sludge.
Right, exactly. Sludge cake, exactly. So then we dispose of that sludge cake in a landfill.
now what are we smelling here? When we smell stuff, do you pick up anything? Because, you know, I know you're used to this stuff.
I guess I am.
So you might be immune.
Yes, okay.
Does it smell like gas? But gas has no smell, supposedly. What?
Well, yeah, you might not smell. You might smell like diesel gas or something, but you shouldn't
No,
smell.
it's that natural gas smell that you get.
There's
you
no.
know.
Well, could we
no
be?
natural.
Well,
right.
is there any benzene coming out of here at all? None, zero.
I would
when
say
you-
there's. I can't imagine there being benzene coming out of here.
Is there any hydrogen sulfide in this gas?
I can look into that. I don't know that answer.
You see those white
Hydrogen
containers?
sulfide, isn't that what's coming out of
Yeah.
the wet gas in like western Pennsylvania? Yeah. I
like
can answer your
rotten egg.
question. No. The answer is no. This is
You've never experienced
right. This is pipeline quality gas, so we don't have to knock off any condensates. So we're not seeing that.
So it could be burning as is.
As is, absolutely.
That's what you're doing.
Correct. That's right.
Now, what's in those white containers?
That is windshield washer fluid. So that
Oh.
becomes an antifreeze.
That's the antifreeze?
facility. Right.
Okay.
The brine water is then collected in the same place where the flowback goes. The brine water goes for recycling, and then we reuse it at the next location.
This is the brine water in these tanks right here. These are called the condensate tanks.
No, they're not called condensate tanks.
No
they're
more?
called brine tanks. We don't have condensate tanks here at all.
What about on
Western.
Carter? What about Carter Road? I thought that you called those. Everybody called that the condensate tanks.
No, those are brine tanks.
Not condensate.
That's on the path.
The hill here, I assume, is stored topsoil.
Right.
At what point do you start reconfiguring this pad?
You'll start to bring that topsoil down. You'll pull this edge back,
sort of start leveling it
gentle roll, and bring the topsoil back in.
and maintain this as
Correct.
working.
Yeah, you'll probably go from here, give or take over, because we will have to. I mean, you'll need to have a big enough site just in case you have to replace something.
Right.
So you do have a truck here, you might have to replace the brine tank.
Is there a standard plan that you guys follow in terms of timing on that?
That's a good question. Yeah.
This has
Normally,
just
this one was just being put into production.
So at how many months down the road do they start preparing?
And normally it's within the first year, but I can't come in. I don't have an answer as a sense of month. Here we are in summer. It's possible, but I'm not guaranteeing that.
But this doesn't stay like this for years.
Not for years.
How many feet of stone do you have on top of the substrate?
That's a good question. Each one will be depending on what was there prior, but there's a good chance that there's 18 inches of stone.
Well, do you dig that all up so that the land is vulnerable?
No, we'll put topsoil back over top.
So you got topsoil on top of all the stones, so
Correct.
you can't plow it and plant it.
Depends on if we have enough topsoil and the farmer wants to, we can replant it and he could farm it.
But it'll never be.
It's too compressed for anything beyond grass, though.
Yeah.
Maybe you could get hay on it. But,
Right.
But the soil is. I mean, you're never going to get trees
And the
because
roots
it's
can't
way
go
too
down. Even
compressed.
alfalfa wants to go further
Which is
than this.
a concern. Depending on how much topsoil, I mean, you're probably only putting what, like 6 inches.
Good question. I don't know the answer.
See, that's the concern. That nothing can get its roots down to it.
Right.
I just have one question, George, about the families in Dimmock who don't have water for about 3 years.
Right. Their water is perfectly clean today.
Well, the ones...
Every family has water that will meet EPA safe drinking water
How about the
standards.
ones on Carter Road
Everyone.
that has... Yeah, but they have to get it shipped in and...
No, their water from their wells have been tested, and every one of them has safe drinking water.
So their wells are safe at this point, so they could
Absolutely.
drink from them. That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what Cabot is saying. That's their
Cabot is
position.
saying.
So you have test results. Can you show us those test results and get samples of test results showing that they're within proper drinking
Sure.
levels? I'd like to have copies of that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I share them with DEP. They have them, so yeah.
Yeah, so we can have copies too, because it's hard to get copies.
Now, what about the produced water after the flowback water is mostly off, and you have produced water and whatever has dissolved down in the shale, the metals and the how do you handle that?
That's all going to come back as brine water, and we're going to send it off to treatment.
So then it doesn't go through that
No.
hydrator anymore. Those not used.
And I'm gonna, if you would, there are a few words that get utilized in this industry.
Don't they have to put that smell in?
Produced water is a generic category of any water that the industry creates. So that's probably the largest bracket. But then you break that down into flowback or brine. Quite honestly, they're the same thing. It's just a question of when did you produce it. Flowback is what we call when we are here completing the well and Baker Hughes is actually on site fracking the well and it comes back, that's flowback. Once we have the well in production and we take the same water that was flowback, it goes to these brine tanks and then just call it brine water. However, there's no real difference in it. But then a category that would call brine water and flowback, some people call all that produced water. I try to stay away from the word produced water and say flowback because it happens when you are on site doing the completion, and then long-term brine water.
Okay. Now, what are we actually smelling? I do smell something like Nancy's saying. I'm smelling something that smells like gas. Do they put the
No, there's no
mercaptan in there?
mercaptan in this
There's no
gas here.
mercaptan in this?
Right,
Why
so-
am I smelling gas? Unless I'm smelling his truck? What am I smelling?
Right.
We ought to stand over there because the wind is
smell
coming
looks
this
like
direction, blowing it away. But if you stand over
Mercaptan
there,
goes in when it normally goes to the utility that's going to take it. So you can have it, I'm not certain if Williams puts it in at the compressor station.
Well, I thought they had to do that because that's one of the ways they find
Right.
leaks along the line.
It's one, well, that's one way.
Smell,
That's
right?
just smell, though. From a standpoint of finding a leak along a pipeline, you'll do that more so from a gas detector. That won't detect mercaptan. Mercaptan is more so for you in your home or in your location, your business, your commercial operation, that you can smell it there because you won't hear it. It'll be a real small pin leak in your house. So they add the odorant mercaptan to it. So you then have a odor in your home. But no mercaptan would be coming out here, and I don't know if they add mercaptan at the compressor station. But I know when a utility takes it, they add mercaptan to it.
Reaches the city or town.
It's called the city gate. Exactly right.
Are there any emissions from those tanks, the brine tanks? Are there any tubes on the top like I've seen in the old brine tanks?
Yeah, I don't see any tubes in those brine tanks. Am I missing?
So maybe you're missing. Okay, maybe not. But can I climb on those steps?
No, you may not climb on those steps. You know that.
Why not? I can ask.
You have open-toed shoes on.
So
That's
what?
Why.
So
No
what?
hard hat.
I'm a climber. I can climb almost
Thank
anything.
you.
But you're saying there's no emissions coming from the top of that brine tank?
I'm saying there's no emissions coming from the top of that brine tank.
So nothing at all. Zero, because we have a different definition of no. Zero, I will reiterate. You're saying zero?
I'm seeing no emissions come from that.
Okay, so you're saying no, zero. Okay.
Now I'm seeing lights over there. I assume at night they light this up.
Oh, okay. The reason that the lights are back is the lights stand on the far corner because this one is so early in production and the dehydration units are here. Yes, they will light this location up because of the dehydration units. In case they have to come here on location at night for any reason, they're going to want to have that light there, especially on the dehy units. You can see that's why it's in that corner. That will not stay.
So once it's all finalized and all you have left are the brine tanks and the heating units.
Correct.
And also the stacks, those stacks?
Yes, the heating units.
The heating unit with a stack.
No light.
But you still hear noise? And will you hear any noise?
If the heater is running, you will hear the heater running, yes.
What about a constant whirl, like a hum of some kind?
Well, I guess if the heater's running, you'll hear the whirl of the heater.
But not otherwise. It goes on and off.
And the heaters only run in the winter once it's under.
Slow down on pressure. Exactly.
So is it because the gas expands as it comes to the surface?
Absolutely. At great pressure.
Right. Well, yeah. Then it would be expanding.
You had open pits for the flowback.
Yes. Not for flowback. We have no open pits for flowback. We never had open. No.
Always use tanks?
We always use tanks. We've always utilized the closed loop system.
What about Carter Road, the famous Carter Road? Did you have any pits there for flowback? So what were the pits for? Just drill?
No, those were called reserve pits.
Just for the drilling mud? The drilling mud?
Right. Right. And we no longer utilize those either.
But these tanks are big enough to hold all of the flowback that comes out?
Yes. Especially at this stage. I mean, they were earlier when this was in its first stages of completion.
Saying it's only 3 square miles that you're prohibited from drilling in?
Correct.
And at this point, what are you doing about meeting the DEP demands so that you can go back into that 3 square miles?
We're working closely with DEP on all the conditions laid forth in the agreement.
So have you? So you're working with the conditions. Are you? How close are you to completing those conditions?
I'd say we're there.
You're almost there.
Yep.
And then they'll lift the ban.
Yes.
So you're expecting a lifting of the ban, what, within a month or two? This year sometime?
This year.
Now, according to you, the water is clean on Carter Road.
Right.
All the people who are in the lawsuit have clean water, according to you.
Right.
So their water should be drinkable at this point. Should they remove those stacks that are there that, emit...
That could be their decision.
That could be their decision, but they can be removed, so you don't think it's dangerous to emit excess methane from their water wellhead, so that they should be safe.
We're not seeing any buildup in methane along Carter Road in the wells you're talking about.
And then whatever tests you have done, what were the amounts of methane there? Do you know any amounts? Or
I
you
don't know.
You don't know. But they were not.
All trace.
They're all trace amounts. Right. And what about other things like barium, manganese?
Not seeing it.
Any of those things? No. Anything there that's high? So none of those are high for you. Aluminum?
Nope.
So they should be drinking it. So even though that's the case, you haven't been able to, come to agreement with DEP, so you don't have to deliver water daily?
DEP says the rule, they would like us to continue until their conditions, and we sit down with them. So we're just working with them.
So at this point, you still have to deliver water?
Right. Even though the water's clean to use, we're still to deliver.
But DEP has not consented that it's clean. According to DEP, and when we talk to DEP, they say the water is still not drinkable. Right. It still has high levels of methane and other elements and should not be drunk.
Yeah, I have not heard that from DEP.
You haven't heard that from DEP?
Not recently.
Not recently?
Yeah. How recent ago have you heard that?
I guess the past year, maybe over 6 months ago.
Oh, yeah. And that's why I would say that that's old information.
All right, so then I can ask DEP now, and they're going to tell me that the people they can be drinking the water at this point, that it's within the standards.
EPA safe water drinking, yes.
EPA. Now the EPA is doing a study on Dimick. They're coming in here because they want to see what's happening with the fracking and with the.
They decided on Dimick.
Yeah, they decided on Dimick. Dimick is one of them, plus Bradford County.
I thought it was Susquehanna and Bradford County. I don't think they've gotten any lower down. We haven't heard that they're coming. We know they're coming.
Yeah, they're
to
coming.
Susquehanna,
you mean
Bradford.
You mean the county?
No, I mean the county.
Yeah, they're coming to Susquehanna County, and they are zeroing in on Dimick because they feel that you don't know that. Okay.
Right.
So, because they're concerned about, you know, what's happening with the fracking fluids and with the fracking itself, whether it is somehow impacting the water wells and the aquifers.
But we know that DEP has already been on record as saying there's no hydraulic fracturing problem in Carter Road or in Dimick or in Susquehanna County.
Okay, that
Harry has said that numerous.
I have not.
Okay,
I haven't seen that.
Where he will say there is not a hydraulic fracturing problem along Carter Road or in the Dimick area.
So what is the problem?
That methane migration.
Methane migration from bad casings? Is that?
I would say it's not from bad casings.
But DEP says bad casings. And they recently. Okay, it wasn't. Okay, then recently I heard 22 of your 60 wells have bad casings.
Right. And we would argue that.
You would argue that.
Not the case at all.
So then you're still arguing with DEP at this point.
On that issue of bad casing, absolutely.
Right.
Because our studies show that the casings are not bad.
So can we go back to the hydrofracking process? And certainly there was a spill, Chesapeake had a spill over in Bradford County.
A blowout.
The blowout, yeah.
Explain that to me, because that seems to be the real problem with the hydrofracking is when it comes back up, it gets out of hand and it ends up blowouts or whatever, ends up getting into streams that way. And that's where the real problem is with it when it gets into surface water. I mean, if you're containing it here and you're taking it to be recycled, that's great. And I see you got a little bit of a skirt around those that could collect anything. But what happens? I mean, why is it blowing out? What's the problem?
I haven't studied the Chesapeake situation to know why it happened there.
Well, when it's fracked and then stuff starts coming back up, how's it set up so that it means it's just coming up open? Is it already in that kind of thing situation?
It would be on the, if you look at that, and again, today you're not seeing what we would use here for a completion. So what I'm going to ask you to do is look at that wellhead that comes up like a T.
Right.
It's gray.
Yeah.
You will have a wellhead on there that we use just for completing the well. What happens is on the right-hand side, water will go down. It will come back up, and on the left-hand side, we will capture it.
So something happened then with that well, that temporary head blew out. And then they can't stop it, right?
It's
coming under pressure.
Right. And that's why you build in redundancies into the system. So you have 3 ways to shut it off.
And
they were
what are
unable.
those?
They're all different levels.
Well, why were they unable to shut it off?
Good question.
It failed. The system failed.
No, actually that was totally different. Because at BP they were drilling, and you have a blowout preventer when you're drilling. There was no blowout preventer when you're completing a well, but you have a T like this that you would manually or remotely control to stop any unplanned release. Now, as to why theirs failed, I don't know.
George, could we walk up to the casing there?
Sure.
So if it's working properly, then all of the frac water or flowback should be going into these things. Right as soon as the well is fracked.
Right.
You know, as property owner, as a resident of the county, our biggest concerns, I mean, to me, this is absolutely hideous. I'm sorry, but it's ugly. It's intrusive. The whole process to me is intrusive. But my main concern is that I'm going to be able to live here and drink my water.
Right.
And there have been too many incidents of accidents, of people now having polluted water or streams being polluted. Maryland is suing Chesapeake because they polluted the Chesapeake Bay from the spill here. With unknown chemicals, because nobody knows what's in the frac.
Actually, everyone's known.
But not everything that's in the frac.
I would disagree.
We still don't know.
I would disagree.
It's
I would say that.
proprietary.
Yeah, I would say that everything's known.
Everything, all of the chemicals.
All the chemicals. Right.
Then why is it still being kept like
It's
we're
not.
not going to release it?
You can go on fracfocus.org and you can find out everything that we used here to complete this well.
Okay.
Frac, F-R-A-C, focus.org.
But aren't some of the things that are listed like a title that actually contains other materials that aren't separately listed?
If that's the case, when you release it to DEP, you're not able to give it some sort of general name like that.
The public doesn't know those specifics.
But if that's the case, DEP would know those specifics. Right.
Well,
but there's no secret in the sense of unknown chemicals.
Okay. But back to my concern then is, as a resident, I want to be able to drink my water. I don't want to live in fear that something that I can't necessarily smell or taste is going to give me cancer 20 years down the road.
Right.
So, what are you guys doing to make
We're doing everything we can to protect your water, your groundwater, with strings of casing, whether it's the redundancies you built into the system from a fracking standpoint or a completion standpoint. So again, I see we're going above and beyond to ensure that your groundwater is protected.
Everything
Do you have any sort of like, I don't know what the term is, but figuring, well, there's always going to be some of those.
One in a millions or something like that.
It's not so much more like, well, you figure that there's always going to be some accident, so somebody's water's going to get screwed up, but that's the cost of doing business.
No, we don't think that way by any means. There's no sort of 1 in a million. We're okay with that. The goal is none.
So you got these 3 redundancies in place once the frac water starts coming back.
From a shut-off standpoint,
to prevent blowouts. And you've got the 4 levels of casing as you're going down to prevent methane migration, which are really the 2 big areas. Now, once you get to this point, and you're getting the gas up, you're still taking off frac water, but are there any concerns as far as the aquifers and the groundwater at this point? Everything's pretty much contained within concrete casing.
Right.
So it's like the most dangerous period is the drilling time, when you're putting the initial casing down and then when the frac water's coming back up. Those would be the most dangerous times in terms of somebody's
That would be
water.
probably the time that there's the most activity ongoing. So yes.
When the frac water is...
This is a wellhead at this site, the Russo site. So we can look inside the hole here. These are the dehydrators and the heaters and the stacks next to the heaters.
If it were that bad, yes, ma'am.
Stuff like that.
But when you're doing those kind of operations, you have all the equipment on site. If there is to be a problem, you would have it on site. If you needed to have any sort of back truck or something like that, you'll have it.
Do you have a containment vessel so that you can pump up like if you had a spill here on the pad?
Right, vacuum truck. Yes.
But where was it?
So during that time when they're fracking, there's the vacuum truck
Necessary
on
equipment
site.
on site in case there was a problem.
Because the Chesapeake pad was overwhelmed by the
volume.
blowout and the rainbow. And
Plus they didn't tell anybody for 16 hours that they had a problem.
burn to contain it. So I don't know if this is enough.
Right. But it's engineered to be so. So I would say I'd go away from guessing, and given this amount of space you have here, is to be engineered to contain. But where's it going to go there?
Well, there's a dish.
Right. Right.
So one thing I've always wondered is why do you place the wells up high, like on a higher elevation?
We have them pretty much all throughout. We have them down
It
low.
always seems like you're up on a hill.
Well, the newer ones maybe, the more recent ones, no?
I think here in Susquehanna, we probably have a hard time not being on a hill. Is the only thing I could say. I know we will avoid low spots because you'll run into wetlands more than likely. So we don't want to be in a low spot to any water issues that are going to gather there. But we don't try to be on a hill at the same time. But in different layers. But you're not going to see any natural cracks come from 10,000 feet to surface.
Not maybe one, but one just another.
But if you stay with that, you've got to have that happen. What would happen is it's going to run out. It's not going to run up. You got to remember, it's under pressure. The Earth's on top of it. So you're somehow having that, you're channeling that straight up through a series of fissures. If it hits anything, it's going to go out.
Well, I heard it's possibly it can go up also. Do you know in Graphia? Have you ever listened to him?
Yes, I've listened to him.
Okay, so how do you feel about Ingraphia?
I don't have a hard time understanding and believing what Ingraphia is putting forward.
How about Blue Allstat? Blue Allstat.
I don't know Blue Allstat.
Vice president of,
Oh yeah, I've seen him on the internet. That's that gentleman? Okay. Yeah.
and he talked about refraction going out of zone.
Yeah. I think that he's been discredited. So I'll get you the information on it.
Well, you're talking about not refracting.
Right.
Are you saying you're never going to refract?
I don't see the need to refract. Correct.
But you can't say the word never, right?
Right, of course. Why should I?
But why? Because you'll sell the well when it's
No, we don't. The production's going to be there.
But you're not going to have the same pressure for 20 years.
Actually, we will. I mean, I know you're having a hard time believing me, but the case is you will have it. That's why we have wells in West Virginia producing for 30 years. We have wells in West Virginia producing for 30 years.
Without refracting.
Without refracting.
So
Without refracting at all.
Okay. So George, what about?
Make it to the car.
Okay, one second. Yeah, are you going to drill like about half of what you proposed to drill this year?
We're at 54 wells this year.
So how many more are you going to do for this year?
I don't know. I don't know where we are.
But you were thinking at one time to do 100 wells, right? And now you're at 54. Do you know why you're doing like 54 instead of
capital?
Not capital means what? You don't have enough capital?
No, the cost. We just want to stay within our budget.
You have a budget? Why do you have a budget? I thought you had unlimited funds. I don't get that one. Did you tell the stockholders you have a budget? And not unlimited funds?
Vera, please. Good. Wells that we produce. They'll probably pay out a month $500,000 to the landowners. A month.
Which landowners, though? If they have to have a certain amount of
They're
acreage.
in the unit.
Oh, the unit. You mean that's the total amount to the unit?
Correct.
So there could be like a dozen owners there. Could be one owner.
There are less than 25 owners there.
Less than 25 in a unit.
So the company's making a good profit on those.
For spending and putting the effort in.
And that could go out many years.
Correct. Right. Yeah, we're not seeing the decline curve in the sense that we're not going to produce them over the life of them.
Which are your gusher wells? Yeah.
The two we just brought on. We're not naming them any longer because they're getting a lot of unwelcome mail. Everybody knows like the Chudley and the Clapper. It's in Dimmick Township.
And are you finding in Susquehanna County that there's some areas producing better than others?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, you'll hit a zone where the Marcellus is thickest there, and you're able to produce it better than ones maybe a mile or two away.
And what is it turning out to be right now?
Geology.
Well, I know that in terms of area. Which townships is it?
Auburn and Dimmick are probably the two that lead the Commonwealth.
And do you have wells north?
Yes, we're as far up in Kingsley. So we have wells over there.
West.
East. I'm thinking, right?
Well, Franklin,
so that's
there's
north.
one up in Franklin.
Township, is that yours up there?
No, that's Williams.
I know at Forest Lake, that's where I'm from. There's
Do we have it there?
Follies and Fraser Well.
Yes,
And
that's probably the furthest north.
How about your wells